Outside the Box Reviews, it's party time! And we kick off Zombie Week with the Amok Time Monstarz Tarman figure from Return of the Living Dead. Return of the Living Dead came out in 1985 and was written by the guy from Night of the Living Dead who wasn't George A. Romero. If you haven't seen the movie, it is hilarious, awesome, punk rock, zombie, horror comedy, and pretty much the movie that, as far as I know, kicked off the trend of zombies running around looking for brains, specifically, and talking. I've always thought Tarman was a really cool zombie concept, and I was really excited to finally pick up this figure of him. So let's take a closer look at it. Tarman comes with a display base that's actually pretty cool. Has the kind of concrete floor down here. The texture even goes down to the side of it. A lot of broken up stones. Some wood planks on it, pipe, a blood splatter, and on the back wall we actually have, well, Tarman himself. He's actually inside of the canister that you see at the very beginning, the opening credits of the film, and would eventually melt away to become Tarman. So you have a little Tarmanception going on there, but it's decently detailed. A minor gripe I would have is that it'd be cool if there was actually a piece of clear plastic to simulate glass on there. And it's a little weird this having the depth there and being able to reach inside. I think I could probably make a little piece that would cover this up and look pretty cool. But that's my minor gripe to it. Pretty well detailed. I like the green slime coming out through the cracks in the wall. The other really cool thing about this is we have two foot pegs. This one is a little obvious, but this one back here just blends in with the rubble, and you don't need it necessarily for Tarman to stand, so you could choose to use that peg or not. And what would a Return of the Living Dead zombie be without a brain? It's flat on the bottom, but the rest of it's a nice red, deep, craggly brain with a nice little bite taken out of it. Very appropriate for the character. Then here on the base, we have the blood splatter, and it will actually fit right in there and sit nicely. And you have your bloody brain on the display base without too much chance of it falling off too easily. As for Tarman himself, this is my second foray into the Amok Times horror figures, and I kind of knew a little more what to expect after that Killer Clown figure. This actually predates the Killer Clown, but I knew the articulation wasn't going to be great. I knew he was going to be kind of like older NECA figures, but overall I think he's a pretty successful figure. The head sculpt on him is really well done. It has that nice skull effect. He's got the big teeth sticking out, the kind of bug eyes. Very well detailed. The reddish top to it as well. You have his ears still hanging on there. It's a lot of great paint and sculpt detail on him, which I really am impressed with. I wasn't expecting so much good detail there. Really dig that. And then inside the mouth, you can see his little pink tongue. The upper torso is also really well done. You can see the rib cage in there, the shiny, glossy black tar. Spin him around, you got his shoulder blades and his spine raised up, kind of a nice hunch to his back. The arms are nice and bony and skeletal with shreds of clothing hanging off. Underneath his upper arm on both sides, there's actually pieces hanging off that are soft rubber, so they're not gonna break on you, which is nice. Very cool looking. But then when we get below his waist, it kind of goes downhill a little bit. The black becomes a lot less shiny, a lot less gross. You can see up here on his top, very shiny. Down here, very dull. But there's some great sculpting in there. I just wish there would have been some paint to really bring it out. The front part of his tattered clothes is a hard sculpt, but here on the back, it's rubberized again, so it's not gonna break back here, but there's no articulation for it to really be there for. And this one piece coming down the side actually connects to his lower leg, which is a little odd. But it's all just one color from the waist down, that same black, and some paint detail would have really helped. And then we get a little more color down here at the feet that are all gross and nasty and shiny black on the bottom. The sculpt itself I like. All the sculpting is very nice on this figure. The paint is just really where it suffers, and it's only for the lower half of the figure. For articulation, the jaw will open and close. Now, the jaw is pretty loose, so sometimes it will stay shut on its own, other times it will just flop open. But you also have a swivel in the neck, and at the two sides, it kind of forces the jaw to close. So you can kind of have him just mouth open with his head center and then just turn it and lock the jaw. You can get some interesting facial expressions out of him, so I think it works well enough. The shoulders are on a pin socket. They don't go up too far, and they're hindered going down because of this rubberized plastic. They will swivel forward and back, but they feel very fragile, and I don't want to push them. It's very thin. This whole figure is what I would consider concept accurate. He's very skeletal. In the movie, of course, it was a thin guy in a costume, but this goes beyond that level of thinness and just becomes truly skeletal. Nothing else in the rest of the arms, and nothing else at all for the rest of the figure. No waist, no feet, no legs, nothing. So you get the head, the mouth, and the arms. And because I know I won't be the only one asking, he will hold the brain in his hand, only in his right hand. His left hand's pretty much open, but there's no way to get it anywhere remotely near his mouth to make him look like he's actually taking a bite of it. So a little bit of a bummer there, but he can hold it, which I think is pretty nice. I like that he can hold the brain. And overall, I really like this Tarman figure. But in a way, I almost feel like I shouldn't. He lacks articulation, the paint on his lower half is not good. But I love that even though these aren't coming out that often, this figure is fairly old at this point. They still do every so often put out a new figure of a more obscure horror character, and that's really cool. I really miss the days when I first got into collecting where so many licenses were game. Mezco had basically the big three of Nightmare, Friday the 13th, and Texas Chainsaw, and NECA had so many other things, even extending beyond horror to do things like the Dark Crystal and Highlander. But with the cost of production of these figures going up, cost of materials being so high now, we don't get as much rare stuff because companies can't afford not to sell them, and it makes me really happy when we have something like this that's available. And he is available. He's not that expensive to pick up. I got mine on Amazon for a completely reasonable price, so look around. I'm sure you could find a Tarman for your own collection without spending too much money at all. So this figure definitely gets a recommend. I really do enjoy him. Make sure you check out Outside the Box Reviews on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also check me out on Facebook, link below. And stay tuned all week because Zombie Week continues with reviews. More reviews. Alright, that was an awful Tarman.